I walked into a restaurant alone, asked for a table for one, and my hands were literally sweating. I'm 56 years old, I've raised kids, I've run major projects, and I've done plenty of hard things, and I still almost walked out the door. I'm Marcy Wild, and here's what happened in 6 different dining experiences, what surprised me, and why I'm never waiting for somebody else to show up before I live my life. All right, dining alone, let's try it on. So before we start trying something out, it's really important to dig into some deeper truths, understand why you are wanting to try what it is that you're wanting to try. Like, what are you really trying to get out of it? An example is if you say, I want to take up pottery. You take a class and you realize you don't like getting your hands all dirty, the clay jammed up in your fingernails. You can't figure out how to keep the bowls from falling in on themselves. And you walk away from the experience going, that was a total waste of my time. I'm not a crafty kind of person. If you had found your truth about why you wanted to take that pottery class, it could have been things like you wanted to try a new hobby, and you wanted to make some friends, and maybe you even wanted to have some things that you made with your own hands around your house. If you look at the pottery class experience with those goals, then you could say, all right, so I found that pottery wasn't the hobby for me, but there are others out there. You found that you really did like meeting the other students and made some friends. And maybe you even found out that right down the hall there's a stained glass class that you can take with some of those same people. So if you look at it that way, then your pottery class was a success. It may not have been exactly how you thought it would be, but it still gave you information and allowed you to move forward toward your goals. And that's why the truth really matters. Old mindset, the goal was pottery. You failed. New mindset, the goal was finding a hobby, making new friends, and maybe ending up with some nice things around your house. In that regards, it was a total success. The point was never about pottery. The point was about finding what fits. I'll be sharing my personal truths about dining alone in just a little bit. And I gotta say, some of it was pretty uncomfortable to admit. So the other truth that we need to make sure we're clear on is, where are we actually at when we want to start doing something? Like being honest with ourselves and acknowledging what our current state is. An example is you want to do a Running Man. You're 56 years old, over 200 pounds, and it's just something you've always wanted to do. As I mentioned, understanding the why is super important, but also understanding your physical limitations or just where you're at is also very important for finding out where to start. Your starting point may be something like run 1 mile 3 times in a week. A lot of people hear be honest with yourself, and they think that that immediately means I'm too overweight, I'm too out of shape, I'm too old. Honesty does not have to be judgment. I'm just saying, let's be honest about where we are, judgment-free. Being honest about where you are isn't about limiting what's possible. It's about figuring out what's the smartest place to start. You can keep your eye on the Ironman prize. You just don't have to start there. We all have different reasons for dining alone. Sometimes it might be that our friends are busy. It could be that we're divorced, maybe widowed, or maybe even just nobody wants to go to the restaurant you want to go to. For me, it's easy. I just moved to Las Vegas not too long ago, and I don't know anybody here. So if I want to go out to eat, try some new restaurants, I have to do it on my own. But when I dig deeper about my personal truths for dining alone, as a woman over 50, it's much more than I expected. Okay, here's a little vulnerability moment. For me, I don't go out to eat alone much for a few reasons. One, I fear people's judgments. I think the stigma is out there that people are going to look down on you if you try to eat by yourself, especially as an older, heavier single woman. In general, I just don't go out much. When I do go out, it also just reminds me that I don't have somebody in my life to go out to eat with. And I'm just not sure what to do with myself in those quiet moments between ordering and getting your food and waiting. And the worst one is to go out to a fancy restaurant is really intimidating for me, because I don't want to spend a ton of money to feel small, alone, and unworthy. I mean, I've never done it, but that's what I think would happen. So why do I want to dine alone? Why am I trying this experience? The first one is I want to enjoy all of the variety of cuisine that Las Vegas has to offer. There's like everything here. I also would like to learn the city more, get out around, see different neighborhoods, different areas of the valley, maybe make some new friends. I also would like to show myself how strong I am by overcoming my fears. And finally, be able to walk into any restaurant with confidence at any time and have a wonderful experience. So where am I at? Well, right now, to be honest, I am not at a place where I can financially go out to eat 7 days a week. So this trying it out is going to have to take a little bit of time. It's going to be spread out over several weeks. I chose 6 different restaurant experiences. I mixed up breakfast, lunch, and dinners. I did some with reservations, some as walk-ins, and I even sometimes sat in a booth or a table or even at the bar. Basically, I wanted to get in as many different scenarios as I could. Before I jump into the results, have you ever wanted to do something but fear, self-doubt, worrying about what other people think kind of held you back from doing it, especially now in midlife? The aging experiment is for you. Consider subscribing. I believe that women don't need more courage to try new possibilities. They just need a safe place to try things on and see what fits. And that's exactly what we do here. Now, the funny thing is, the restaurant that I was most nervous about wasn't even the hardest one. The first 2 solo dates that I went on were definitely in my comfort zone. One was a small, local, kind of gourmet breakfast shop, cafe, and the other one was a chain family restaurant, kind of a comfort food place. So entry was super easy, very friendly. I only got just one clarification. There were several other solo diners there, so I felt immediately comfortable. I brought some work to do with one of them, so I sat at a booth and had things spread out. The time went by, no problem. So these 2 gave me confidence, but the 5th place I'm going to tell you about tested that. Next up, the 3rd one was an old school Vegas buffet. This one was a piece of cake because I had no downtime. I was either walking around trying to find what I wanted to eat, or I was sitting down and eating. I did think that there would be more people and thought that maybe I would have an opportunity to interact with people, picking up food, talking about things, but the place was pretty dead. There really wasn't that many people around. I used to go to this particular one years ago when I came to visit my mom, and I think I had such fond memories about it because of the company I had and the laughing and just being able to see my aunt and uncle and hang out with everybody, because it definitely wasn't the food, if you know what I mean. So restaurant number 4 taught me something that I had never considered doing. So this was a nicer Italian restaurant, and I had been there before with my son-in-law when he came to visit. But walking in by myself as a walk-in, I was shaking in my boots. I'm still nervous just even talking about it. I mean, what if they didn't have a table? I'd feel so silly. What if they wouldn't seat me as a single and I'd have to go sit at the bar, which isn't the worst thing, but just how awkward. Of course, none of that happened. I was brought to a lovely 2-top and I had fantastic service. I did have, however, that awkward moment after ordering of just not knowing what to do, where to look. There was, people at other tables nearby. So I just started thinking about the last time I was there. And it was the first time my son-in-law and I had spent time like that. We had never gone to dinner, just the 2 of us before. And we had a wonderful conversation and laughs. So I sat there sipping on my wine, thinking about that evening and, with a little smile on my face. And before you knew it, the food was there. And I was thrilled. I may have walked in as a sweaty Betty, but I left feeling grateful for my family, full from a delicious meal, and very proud of myself for not giving in to my fear and doing it anyway. Number 5 was the one I dreaded the most, a reservation for one at a high-end restaurant in a Vegas hotel. This is where my new confidence took a hit. I don't have fancy clothes, I'm not a high roller. To be honest, I've been to fancy restaurants before, not a bunch, definitely not alone. So my anxiety was riding high. I wanted to have a nice meal, but I didn't want to feel like I didn't belong. I walked in there so apologetically, like my confidence had taken the first train out of town. but I was greeted like I was the most important person in the room. I don't know if everybody gets treated that way, and maybe it was because I was a solo person, but they treated me like a queen, and I was not expecting that at all. So here we are at number 6, and I saved the hardest for last. What I learned had nothing to do with food. So this was at a chain brew pub kind of place that's often adjacent to the casinos. I've been to it many times with people who have come to visit. They're wonderful places, but what made this hard was the special request that I had for the bartender. As a new creator, I have not done a lot of filming in public. Additionally, I'm solo, so capturing myself in the wild isn't always easy. I mustered up the courage to ask the bartender to take a photo of me. He was so sweet. He immediately said yes with a big grin on his face, kind of threw the towel as he was walking quickly over to me, grabbed my phone, and he took a few. It was like a photo shoot because he wanted to make sure that I had just the right picture. It was absolutely wonderful. I felt completely at ease and was very grateful that he helped me out that way. So these are the things that I tracked that went well, and some of them I kind of expected, well, definitely hoped for and somewhat expected. The first was that walking in was very easy in the casual places. Restaurant staff was friendly in all instances and zero judgment from anybody. What wasn't great is there were times that I was bored. There was a couple places where I hadn't figured out yet what to do with myself, and it was a little painful. I did choose times to go out when there weren't a lot of people. I don't know if that was subconscious, I kind of think it was, but it didn't give me quite the experience that I had hoped for in a couple places. And then actually I cut a couple places out of the list for places I was going to go to because I was just too intimidated. They just really were super busy. One of them was really nice, although I've wanted to go there. I cut it from the list. Now the surprises, the things I was not expecting. I found ways to occupy myself that I had no idea that I could. I'll go over that more in a little bit. Even at the fancy places, nobody judged. That was unexpected. And asking a stranger to film me wasn't as weird as I thought it would be. So the key takeaways that I came up with is 1, overall, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. 2, it's okay to bring something to pass the time, depending on the restaurant, of course. In those casual places, having a book or having some work, those were totally easy and convenient to do. In some of the nicer places, I probably wouldn't bring, a laptop or something. And then the things that I found that I could do to occupy my time. 1, think about special memories. One time I went through my favorite people one at a time and just thought about some pleasant memories with each of them. It was absolutely wonderful. And then at the fancy restaurant, I actually took the time to just really be present. I slowly sipped my wine. I chewed each bite and enjoyed the flavors. And just being very aware, appreciating the surroundings, the decor, the way that people move, just really enjoying the experience. So the final step in this process is just identifying what you want to keep, what you want to stop doing, and anything that you want to just tweak a little bit. For me, I'm gonna keep trying on dining out. I found it was getting easier the more I did it, and I look at it as it's a muscle and I need to work it out to get it stronger. And I'm gonna stop worrying about what other people think. Come to find out, nobody cared that I was dining alone. Nobody at all. And tweak, I'm gonna go back to some of these places, or maybe new places, at busier times. I'm feeling more confident in going, and I think I really want to experience more of Vegas life. What I learned from this experience had nothing to do with dining alone. It had to do with how often we let fear make decisions for us without having any actual evidence. I spent years thinking I would be awkward, judged, out of place, but what I actually found was great food, friendly people, a few uncomfortable moments, but so much more confidence. The truth is, the confidence didn't come before the experiment. Confidence came because of the experiment. If you've been wanting to try something, maybe you can see this as the sign to take the smallest possible step and just see what happens. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to be willing to try it on.